Hello and welcome to our session around taking Oracle recruiting to the next level, where we'll be covering exciting product innovations in Oracle's recruiting space. My name is Jane Veader. I'm the principal product strategist for Oracle recruiting. So let's get started. Today in our agenda, what I wanted to talk about first is setting the stage for talent acquisition today, and how are we unpicking this very knotty problem of trying to get people into your candidate pools and into your organization. A lot of different pressures are on the talent acquisition market that we need to respond to as a whole. Oracle recruiting also, now we're 4 years into this journey post-launch. It's been a really exciting ride, and I want to share with you some of the really interesting things that we've been able to do with the product, and how we've evolved really over the last 4 years. And then as we look into the future, how we're innovating and how we're developing against some of the challenges that we're seeing, some of the emerging challenges in talent acquisition, and how we're really bringing everything together as Oracle. So talent acquisition today, really there's a lot of pressures that are going on, but what it boils down to is that there's a lot of very, very acute needs in organizations to hire quickly, to fill spots, to be able to execute against business challenges. And really what it leads to is not having the right people or enough people to be able to go after these objectives. And so this pushed a ton of pressure on talent acquisition departments. Additionally, talent acquisition departments are being asked to fix the retention problem that we've seen coming out of the Great Resignation, Great Reshuffle, however you want to call it. But the fact is that people are less satisfied in their jobs and they're looking for a more holistic employee experience. And so all of these different factors that go into the employee satisfaction leads to people leaving the organization or doing something else with their careers. And this, again, puts more pressure on TA to fix this problem that's a much more holistic organizational challenge. But really, it comes down to, can I get more candidates? Can I get more people to try to backfill and build back up my problems that ultimately are a symptom of the retention in the organization? And so then these two things contribute to this last piece of disruption and fragmentation in the talent acquisition, just entire toolkit. Because there's these acute needs and, frankly, desperation to get people into the organization. This means that there's all these different tools and solutions and platforms that are vying for our TA department's attention and our IT department's attention to try to meet some sort of need or bring, some sort of niche capability into the ecosystem. But ultimately, this fragments the candidate experience. This fragments your data, your recruiter experience. And so there's a lot of challenges and cost associated with that. And so as we kind of drill into these different areas, when it comes to acute needs, hiring quickly is always a top priority for recruiters. But hiring quickly is a top priority for 63% of TA departments. And this is supplanting things like growth and retention and those kind of things. It really is like the number one thing that TA departments say is that the need to move fast on talent is the primary driver of a lot of their behavior. Most organizations, 76%, expect their headcount to increase this year. And so that means the need for hiring and the need to fill these spots is applying even more pressure to the situation. And then from a macro level, the U.S. unemployment rate is at some of the lowest that I've seen in my lifetime. But really, it's it's driving the competition for talent. It's really what is causing a lot of this scarcity is that the labor pool has shifted as well. And so when there's a high amount of workforce participation, low unemployment, obviously candidates are in the driver's seat and they're getting a lot of various competing things for their attention. And so how do you stand out amongst that crowd of recruiters that are all vying for the attention of great candidates? So all this feeds back into this sense of, if you don't keep the pace up, you're going to be left behind. And again, recruiting now has become a way for organizations to try to put a Band-Aid on retention issues. Coping with retention and turnover is usually a priority of TA departments, but about half of them are saying that this is their top priority. And a big part of this too is having the right skill set in your your talent bench and your applicant pools. And so you can cultivate this, of course, with external talent, but one of the easiest ways to really be able to grow people into skills and careers is through internal mobility. And we see that this loop doesn't quite connect when TA departments are constantly chasing the next, thing that's going to bring more external talent in without necessarily using that insight about these market pressures to drive more of that skill set building and that internal mobility picture. Because ultimately what this does is this is incredibly expensive to use talent acquisition to fix retention. The cost of turnover is 3 to 4 times that individual's salary. And so if you're continually needing to hire new people into the organization because people are leaving, you're spending more money than you need to when you could be, perpetuating the cycle and trying to keep people in the organization. And finally, what this does, again, is all of these pressures contribute to a fragmentation of the overall ecosystem. And we've seen this with a lot of different vendors that pop up in all of these different areas that say, we're going to get you more candidates. We're going to ensure that they're qualified as they come in. But what ultimately this leads to is they might do this use case really well, but then is this really connected to the rest of the data and the rest of the picture and the rest of the candidate's journey and the rest of the recruiter's activities? And so, I'm surprised that it is this high, but almost a third of TA departments are saying that their process for hiring is improvisational, chaotic, or non-existent. They're experiencing stress purely from the tools that they use, and in addition to all of these other things that are putting stress on the overall function of talent acquisition. And then again, from an IT perspective, this leads to complexity because these organizations that are responding to these surveys are saying that their recruiting technologies are only a little or not at all integrated. And this is exactly the problem when it comes to a, gigantic ecosystem of talent acquisition and talent engagement types of tools. The new capabilities that we have integrated into talent management suites, different specialists or TA departments, or even individual recruiters going off and buying their own tools or point solutions. And these tools appearing at a very rapid pace is creating a very fragmented and confusing purchasing environment for end users, just to kind of echo this sentiment from IDC's analysis of the industry. And so with this setting the stage, of course, talent acquisition is kind of in the forefront. A lot of the macro challenges that we're seeing, both just in the economy, in talent, and just in how people are relating to their companies, their jobs, and how companies are relating to their employees. And so what we strive to do in Oracle Recruiting, and what we've done since the beginning, kind of moving into what we offer and why we offer this, is we deliver Oracle Recruiting as part of HCM. And this opens up a lot of possibilities for us, but really having that unified toolkit, platform, and data, and have everything hub off of the centralized wheel that is the person profile, is what differentiates Oracle Recruiting from the diverse ecosystem of talent acquisition products out there. What we strive to do is design against the concepts of being very talent aware. And so we are obviously able to get a very, very comprehensive look at where my candidates are in their journey, whether that's internal or external or former workers. We have all of that data across the entire employee lifecycle, from that initial sourcing and engagement and impression all the way through their complete career in the organization, and use those pieces to craft a better journey and to continually build on that career momentum of individuals coming in and then growing their careers in the organization. And by doing so, we keep this very candidate centric. We want the candidate to be in the driver's seat of how their information is used, what information is shared at what point in time, and really building relationships and supporting that concept of building relationships with the organization, with the candidate really at the center of that picture. And then, of course, all of this feeds into the overall data-driven approach that Oracle has across HCM and across our broader application suite. Because everything is on one platform, we're able to do so much more with it, including have AI being able to crawl through not just my external candidates, but my internals, to be able to provide recommendations for people who might be a fit for a job or a gig, or even on an individual basis, careers that might be recommended to me based on who I am in the organization. These are all things that we can do because of this unified data model that underpins all of our recruiting and overall just human capital management solutions. Some of the things that we're really excited to share and showcase includes that bigger picture around internal mobility. With Opportunity Marketplace, and this is an award-winning part of our product, included as part of Oracle Recruiting and the broader kind of talent management perspective that Oracle has, employees are automatically considered candidates. So there's no loading or integrating or syncing this to an external CRM or career site. This is all part of employee self-service, and candidates and employees are also candidates that you can then push out sourcing campaigns to and drive, other things like referral campaigns. When employees hit the Opportunity Marketplace, they get tailored recommendations for what their next career move may be, whether that's a short-term gig or a new job assignment. And then, of course, when I apply for this job, I don't need to create a new profile or add, a resume or update my information, because I can use my centralized talent profile to be able to apply for this job. And that supplies all of the information that my organization already knows about me. So it makes it a process that is, with just a couple clicks, my internals can apply for a job, because we already have this talent aware approach to their information and leveraging that in all of the different areas to make that process much easier for them. For also just driving that data picture, we also have a number of differentiating AI applications within Oracle Recruiting. And these are embedded in the product. These aren't a separate platform or a separate location that you need to go to for AI-based recommendations. And this also comes in from the recruiter's perspective, from the hiring team's perspective, as well as the candidate's perspective. So we're able to surface these same types of very intelligent, tailored recommendations in a number of different places. So for candidates, that may be recommending jobs based on jobs that they're currently looking at. So very similar to e-commerce style, I'm looking at one item I might want to buy, and here's my related items. And then when we get a little bit further in the process, once a candidate has supplied us with some information, whether that's a talent community sign up or applying for a job, then they get tailored recommendations based on their profile. Again, furthering that engagement and furthering the chance that that candidate is going to find something that's interesting to them that they're going to want to interact with. As candidates go through and apply for jobs, with Oracle Dynamic Skills, another product in the overall talent management picture, we also supply skills recommendations. And this comes into play from both the requisition setup and the candidate apply flow perspective, because the requisition can be given these AI-based recommended skills that are relevant to the job based on the job description, the job title, similar jobs that I've hired to in the past. Here are skills that might be relevant to advertise on this job posting. And then as the candidates come in and apply for that, I also can get recommended skills based on my profile as a candidate. And so this is helping me really put my best foot forward and uncover things about my profile that may be relevant that I may not have explicitly listed. And it also helps to normalize those skill terms so that we're speaking the same language and that candidates are using your terminology when it comes to matching skill requirements on the job and skills that candidates have. Now, from a hiring team perspective, I also get a lot of insight to help me source and identify the best candidates for jobs, and also help to tailor my requisitions and optimize them. So as I'm looking for candidates, as I'm sourcing them for my jobs, I get best candidate recommendations. That's looking at everybody in my database, internals, external, former workers, contingent, all of those different types of profiles that I've interacted with in the past, silver medalists, talent pool members. AI is looking at all of that and providing me with a short list of candidates that may be a good fit for this role that I can then invite as a prospect. In a similar vein to the candidate-facing features, I can also find if I have somebody on my team or a candidate that I'm working with and I want to find, other people that are rock stars like this person, I can also use similar candidates to have AI crawl and find those types of people that I may want to now, cultivate relationships with. And then finally, this last piece, time to hire, this really gives me feedback on my requisitions, where as I'm creating my requisition, I can see what the estimated time to hire may be. and have some modeling tools. If I change the job title, if I change the job requirements, the location, excuse me, how might this change my time to hire? And it's giving me that kind of real-time feedback and prediction feedback to help me really tailor my requisition to get the reach of candidates and get the time to hire that I need for my business. So again, all of these things are embedded as part of the end user's perspective. They aren't a separate product for AI necessarily. And what this is able to do for you is, again, be part of the context of that person's day-to-day job. But I wanted to make the distinction, this isn't making a decision for your recruiting team. And in that way, we are, providing these as additional insights, but ultimately you're in charge of how you want to use these recommendations. And in that way, AI is not introducing bias into your process. It's not going to be, kind of taking the place of recruiters. It's something that really is to just enhance the picture of what you're able to see and take away some of those manual searching steps as part of your candidate database. And again, we deliver this all as part of the Oracle recruiting product and part of the HCM Cloud Suite. Again, another native component of Oracle recruiting and something that we've had from the ground up is candidate relationship management. Many companies and many vendors consider this to be a separate function, but really this is something that's going to continually seed and reseed the engagement with the people that you're communicating with from a candidate perspective and also from an employee's perspective with HCM Communicate. That works very, very similarly as part of our Oracle Me product suite. And so what we do from the candidate's perspective is really just simple campaigning. End user recruiters are able to pick this up and create beautifully branded HTML emails that can create positive impressions to build relationships and build momentum with your previous, current, and future candidates. And as we've said in the past, right, candidates encompasses all of those other worker relationships that you have or have had. Campaigns, of course, can be automated and highly, highly targeted based on robust and very granular search terms. And then when I say automated, you also have automated retargeting as part of that. So I can then go back and target anybody who perhaps opened my campaign email, but then didn't click on it with a second follow-up and a second follow-up. Again, trying to build in those hooks and automate that engagement cycle to continually build your pipeline. And then this is based on that foundation of the candidate pools and talent communities that are always picking up new candidates that match those parameters as they come in or as they change their profile information. So your candidate pools are organically growing. Your talent communities are bringing people into those candidate pools. And then the sourcing and candidate relationship management can then campaign out to those audience and have this all be flowing in a scheduled, automated way to help continue to build that candidate engagement and pipeline. Another way that we differentiate from kind of your classic suite vendors too is many suite vendors who also offer recruiting capabilities need a partner for CareerSite. And that's not something that we're interested in doing because everything is really geared around that candidate experience and that candidate record. And so your applicant tracking system is only going to be as good as the information that feeds into it. And this is exactly where you want to provide that consumer grade experience to capture that information firsthand, reducing the need for integrations and for the potential for candidates to drop off between, disparate experiences. Similarly to that, since the launch of the product, we have never asked candidates to create an account or a password. This is all based on just their simple communication method, whether that's email or SMS, and then they're verified with the one-time use code and they're off to the races. So you don't have to remember passwords for every different site that you've ever applied to. We're making that much, much easier and more lightweight for candidates, and we have since the beginning of the product. And then building out the branding and the candidate experience is also something that we have invested in and continue to invest in, whether that's embedded digital assistant on the career site or just a robust framework of images and benefits information and different brands that you might hire or featured roles. All of those different things are just entirely widget based or can be, custom CSS and HTML to match your corporate website branding. All of those tools are native to Oracle Recruiting. So you can build those incredibly robust candidate experiences and have multiple career sites or seasonal branding configuring all of the different ways that candidates might find jobs or discover jobs. All of those things are part of the tool set that we offer with Oracle Recruiting. And then, so finally, we just touched on a couple pieces of what we consider to be, foundational to how we differentiate. But the rest of the picture, of course, is important. The nuts and bolts of a recruiting system is also inclusive of how you plan headcount, how requisitions can be driven based off of positions and workforce needs and expansion goals. Having all of that be able to be tied to the headcount and driven off of the headcount in your organization is another way that we can leverage all of the components of the suite to be a more efficient process for people who are opening requisitions. And then, of course, as we move through the process, a full spectrum of interview management, offers, and then, of course, harmonizing directly with onboarding and the rest of the employee journey so that it's an entirely seamless process as a candidate is transitioned from, pre-hire to hire to now day one employee and beyond. So with that, now I wanted to look forward because as we've talked about, there's a lot of challenges that we see in the marketplace, a lot of different vendors that are trying to meet those challenges, and a lot of things that we do today within Oracle Recruiting that meet a lot of these challenges that we see are, kind of being served by a lot of these different vendors. And so similarly, in this vein, what we're doing is continuing to invest in ways to identify and really cultivate your top talent. Keep those feelers extending and always listening for more people coming in through the process and wanting to build relationships with your team. Additional functionality to deepen the productivity tools as part of Oracle Recruiting. And then, of course, delivering exceptional candidate experiences. Candidate experiences going, of course, beyond just your career site, but having your career site and candidate self-service and having candidates really be in the driver's seat of that experience. And one of the other points that I wanted to make before we start talking about specifics about what we're investing in is that companies are spending a lot on this fragmentation of the market. The projected spending on single platform talent acquisition solutions by 2026 is supposed to be 5.5 billion. And this is a wild amount to be spending on things that you then have to increase the cost by integrating or by using manpower to not integrate and then move, from one system to another and, have disparate user experiences and potentially drop off or people not wanting to use things in system A or system B because it doesn't connect and it doesn't work for them. And so really, this is just kind of the tip of the iceberg because this is just the spending on the tool. It's not necessarily looking at all of the other considerations that happen when you try to, go to different vendors for different pieces and then integrate it back into ATS. And so what we're doing in our overall theme of keeping things really centralized around the candidate record, around the data that's flowing through Oracle's system and the people that you're interacting with, is we're releasing a new add-on to Oracle Recruiting that's part of the HCM suite, that's part of Oracle Recruiting, called Recruiting Booster. And what this is intended to do is accelerate hiring and enhance relationship building just across all of these different functions that TA does and across the new areas that TA expands into to try to meet some of the market pressures of today's hiring environment. So the three ways that we're investing in Oracle Recruiting Booster is tools to help you expand job awareness, to grow that employment brand and that brand awareness with the types of people and talent that you want to target. Additional tools to engage and converse with candidates at scale. And then more ways to break down the silos of interviews and schedule interviews in a faster way, in a more flexible, dynamic way, so that the system is really supporting the relationships that you're building and not necessarily getting in the way and it's more of an administrative work. It's all designed to really support that process as opposed to be the process. So one of the ways that we're helping to expand job awareness, and something we're really excited about because this has been in the domain of very bespoke individual solutions in the past, is we're adding hiring events to the recruiting picture using Oracle Recruiting Booster as really the vehicle for that. And so what this is going to offer is event landing pages and the ability to promote hiring events directly on your career site. So as candidates are browsing for jobs, or maybe they're brought there just because they're interested in some other sourcing activities that you've done to pull them into your career site, they also have the opportunity to see networking events and be able to register for those types of events. And then the best part is any information that they provide as part of that registration process becomes their application when they're ready to move forward, or when they're added to a job, or when they're invited to apply. So there's no duplicate entry. There's no registering in one system and then I have to go apply in another. All of these things are seamless and stored about the candidate so that it removes friction and removes those barriers to entry that often cause candidate drop off. Within hiring events, you also can pre-screen attendees to help identify the people that you want to talk to before they even apply or attend your hiring event. And then, of course, this comes with the spectrum of measuring success with your hiring event that then pulls from the downstream information about that candidate journey. So not only do I see registration, RSVPs, check-ins, but then going even further, I can also see number of applications and then people who've applied for jobs based on who registered for that hiring event. And this is something that you only get that full picture of everything because it's all in one system and because we have all of those data elements centered around that person's profile. Another area that we're growing into with Recruiting Booster is this concept of engaging candidates at scale. Time is, of course, of the essence. And like I said in the setup, the ability to hire quickly is critical to getting access to people in the very tight labor market. And so we have a number of different ways that we're enhancing with Recruiting Booster to help you with those candidate conversations. One side of this is automated conversations through the digital assistant. So this is going to offer a new recruiting assistant experience that provides much more guided interactions with the digital assistant to bring candidates through the full apply flow, the full interview scheduling, and also brings into a new paradigm for searching for jobs where I can drop off my resume and get jobs recommended to me. So it's taking that same AI recommendation application and bringing it to DA and being able to use that technology to replace my more classic search for jobs. So I heard, from a vendor, if you have to actually execute a search, you've probably already lost that candidate. And this is another way that we're making that process even easier and more tailored to the individual, more candidate centric. And then once a candidate has kind of come in through that, they've gotten everything that they need to get done on an automated basis. Now they need to converse one-on-one with the hiring team, continue to build those relationships, ask questions. Then we also provide two-way messaging through Recruiting Booster. And this builds in seamlessly with your Oracle Recruiting candidate record so that you have a messaging tab and can conduct those conversations directly on that candidate record, whether they've opted into email or SMS. It doesn't matter. We're able to send that to their preferred communication method, and everything is tracked in one place. So your hiring team can see those interactions, can help contribute to that conversation, and have everything, again, focused in one area. So you're not losing pieces and you're not losing parts of the puzzle, and maybe not over contacting candidates because you can't see what different members of the hiring team are doing. And then finally, the last piece to this is the ability to schedule interviews faster. And again, this comes into the play of being able to execute against those expectations that you set with candidates. The worst thing that you can do is leave a candidate hanging with no transparency into where they are in the process. And that's one of those areas where that causes so much frustration in the candidate journey, that causes people to go work with other organizations. They drop out of your hiring process because they don't know when they're getting to the next step, and they're not getting that visibility into scheduling. When am I going to get to the next step? What's happening? And so we are delivering capabilities with Recruiting Booster to help consolidate the interview coordinator's view of everything that I might have going on, and also break interviews out of the requisition specific context that they are in kind of classically. So this would also expand interviews to be able to be done on, event attendees or pipeline, candidate pipeline people, and have those interviews and those touch points much earlier in the process, so that you can have those types of sourcing conversations without somebody necessarily being matched to a job requisition, and then have everything be scheduled and based out of the system. And this works seamlessly with Oracle Recruiting's existing capability to serve up candidate managed interview times. What that means is I can set a schedule on our users on our interview team's behalf, and then candidates can self-select which time slot that they want to get. And so some of the new capability that's coming with this is automatically generating those time slots based on the busy free information of my interviewing team to really quickly understand and to automatically always have something on the calendar to continue to drive this process forward. I also can create interviews for groups of candidates or groups of requisitions or groups of events. So again, breaking this out of rec specific context and being able to have like a consolidated interview schedule for my store, because I have the same 4 store leaders that are hiring for every position in the store. So a lot of flexibility that we're adding to our overall picture of Oracle Recruiting with Recruiting Booster. So we're very, very excited to bring all of these capabilities to market in a way that, again, seamlessly is part of the Oracle Recruiting and broader HCM suite, but really bundles this together for organizations who may be looking at a lot of different tools for different components of this. And so this competitive pressure is exactly why we are releasing this functionality. And doing this as part of the suite contributes to our overall picture of keeping your candidate in the center of your recruiting process, and on a broader scale, keeping your talent in the center of their overall employee journey. So with that, I want to say thank you for viewing this session. We're really excited that you are interested in recruiting and look forward to continuing the dialogue. Thank you all.